Alright folks, I haven't smacked the leftists upside their head in a while. Frankly, that's kind of redundant at this point. Let's not kid ourselves. That's why I said progressivism is a drug. You must either leave it or it will drive you suicidal and insane. Do we live in a simulation? Well, the left certainly do, hence why they're miserable and nuts, because their entire worldview is completely detached from objective reality. It is a new religion. Their so-called Sky Daddy is the science, trademark of course, which is comprised of highly corruptible humans. They worship the PhD, but only when it suits them, of course. When it's the dark arts kind that penetrates their utopian idealism shite, then religious zealots like screeching becomes the battle cry of the deluded spastic. Which brings us neatly to this bint over here, something or other from the Majority Report. Frankly, the name is irrelevant. Hell, at this point, I'm reluctant to even categorize them as human beings, which, yes, I'm sure sounds offensive and degrading to someone, but I will explain why. Listen to this.
Slam Cedar. Emma, there's tons of evidence regarding testosterone levels in height, strength, and speed between people with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes.
True, and the fact that in this day and age we need a scientific study, whatever the hell that's worth these days. At this point I would say fuck all. Instead of just observing reality with our own eyes tells me there is a disturbing amount of people that would need an expert to tell them the fucking sky is blue.
Matt's citation off cases about the Olympics is pertinent, but an argument for better planning and more transparent discussions.
Pray tell, why, oh why do we need a discussion about this? It's men and women and bollocks to you. There is no subtlety, there's no nuance, no gray area, there is no middle ground. This is an absolutist position. It's either you believe in the fairy tale La La Land or you're a sane, rational human being, and that's all there is to it. This is not up for debate.
Your argument is really bad on this, and you're out of your depth. You're correct that trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, but your argument for it is just scientifically and factually incorrect. I'm actually not bad about this.
Yes,
I'm 100% right on this.
No, you are.
I don't give a shit about the scientific explanations.
Well, it's nice of you to admit you're a moron and you're driven purely by political ideology and nothing else. Good to know. Secondly, one can debunk this woman's entire argument in a single point. Why is it that doping is banned, but this isn't? Yeah.
People, if they identify as a woman, get to compete in sports.
Yeah, that's not how the real world works, dear.
If that's not fair in the short term for a variety of little competitions, I don't give a shit.
Yes, we know you don't, but did you ever consider that others maybe do? Probably not.
I don't give a shit, because the societal interest of including trans people in society trumps stupid competition.
Okay, give me a moment. There's a lot of stupidity to process in such a short burst. You do realize it's literally impossible to be a leftist and a sports fan. The logical conclusion to leftism will lead you to a conundrum. Sports, by its very nature, is competitive. It's antithetical to equality. Its goal is to find the winner, thereby upsetting your political equilibrium. And by the way, it doesn't matter how many there are. If you have 500 competitors, but only 3 men, the gold, silver, and bronze will be taken by those 3 men every single time.
Full stop. So I'm right about this, you're wrong about this. Anyway, Dr. Shock, I agree. Let's get rid of weight classes in all combat sports. Perhaps have grown man compete in Little League. Sometimes life's not fair.
Ouch! Good night, Vienna headshot. Throw in the towel for the love of God, woman. Oh, but there is more to this stupidity.
I mean, honestly, like women's sports, it's barely an institution. It's only been around for a few decades.
Wow, that is quite the mask-off moment there. The hell with you ladies and your desire for equality. I have the feelings of men to protect over here.
Like, if our sources of our outlets for entertainment, for competition, for like, I don't know, however to define them. But if they're not able to accommodate trans people, then they're not worthy of existing.
Run that by me again?
But if they're not able to accommodate trans people, then they're not worthy of existing.
Did this thing just imply that our entire civilization needs to be uprooted and overturned to accommodate a bunch of men that in any other time and place would be the occupants of an insane asylum? By the sounds of it, she should freaking be in one.
Like, it's just like, we're talking about movie theaters. What are we talking about here?
You tell us, dingus. You're the one spouting madness over here.
I mean, I love sports as much as anyone.
Good Lord, give me an X the size of the Titanic.
But if they cannot accommodate, including trans people, I don't give a shit about them being robust. It's just, you know, be inclusive or don't be.
I'm going to go with don't be. We've managed to survive thus far, and I see no reason to deviate from rationality to accommodate lunatics.
You're a bad mom if you can't explain that there are people along a gender spectrum and it's not this binary.
I will take shit you say if you have no offspring for 500.
Like, I mean, I hear this all the time. My daughter plays sports. What am I going to tell to her? You know, it's not fair to her to compete with this kind of person. Honestly, you know, I have a sports podcast. I love sports as much as anyone.
No, you don't, and you and your ilk should be purged and restricted from ever coming anywhere near any arena where physical prowess is expressed.
Trans women should be able to compete without question in women's sports because there are a lot of instances where there are athletes who, there's not even evidence to show that this is the case, but just take their assertion at face value for a second that this is some unfair advantage.
Once more?
There's not even evidence to show that this is the case, but just take their assertion at face value for a second that this is some unfair advantage.
When is this one's birthday? Someone should get her a straitjacket and then tie her face up with it. She just said there is no scientific evidence backing the claim men are physically superior to women. You know, cult is one thing, but I would qualify this thing as a threat to civil society.
I mean, there's an unfair advantage all the time in sports. That's actually quite... that's the nature of sports.
Yes, hence why in sports we have categories like weight divisions, because putting a heavyweight in the ring with a flyweight would be unfair and rather dangerous.
That some people are physically or more gifted, or they have like a better mentality. We should have banned Yao Ming from basketball because he's just too tall. It's not fair for everybody else.
The children.
And yes, she did just try to compare gender to height. I have no words. Now, the reason I said these things aren't really human, if you were to examine the instruments of the regime, is there any difference in the message of, say, this one with Pac-Man, Jank, Secular Talk, or any one of them? No, not at all. The only difference between them is their human form. If you were to look at this like a technological line, these things would be signal repeaters, and that's it. There's nothing unique or interesting about any of them, at all. If you were to cull any one of them from the line, you'd lose nothing, you'd merely weaken the signal. None of these people have any higher tier brain capacity, ability, or even desire for dissent. They don't have any conviction or morals. H.L. Mencken talks about them in Notes on Democracy. They may appear grown up, sure, even have an element of, say, verbal dexterity, but their minds cannot progress past a certain point. Hence why I gave Anna credit, because she actually can and has chosen to express her discontent with the regime, which is to her credit. It's more than a lot of her colleagues will even do. Here's an example. Do you think any of these people would express this bullshit in, say, the Third Reich? No, of course not, because there's nothing to gain by simping for this crap in the Third Reich, and you would likely get killed, so they wouldn't say a word. If you did put these people in the Third Reich, they wouldn't just be Nazis, they would be the staunchest of Nazis. These would be the kind of creatures that would revere Adolf Hitler like a god. Soulless husks drawn to power, and they will never ever be anything more than that, which means you can sum them up in one word: expendable.